up when I realized they were all girls my age, and I knew some of those names, and I'll show you some. So here are some names that I found and looked up when I put their phone number in.
A woman shared part 1 to part 7 story time of how she found out that her husband was cheating on her. But wait, before we go to the story time, there is something very important that she posted after the story time. So she came online to talk about how her husband has been a serial cheater, how she found the other woman. She did a story time, you guys, part 1 to part 7. That was a lot. Anyway, because she posted that online, other women that have had something to do with the man was like, girl, I think I was part of the girls who they reached out to her and they were exchanging text message and all of that. I think the one of the women wanted to send her a message, then she realized that messages was not going, the woman message was not dropping on her phone. That's the wife. Okay. So she went to her blog chat and she saw that she blocked, or there were 208 blocked contacts on her phone. And that other woman that reached out to her number was there. And she has never met the woman before. She doesn't even have the number. She doesn't even know. Apparently, it was the husband that blocked over 200 women contacts from her phone. Yes. So that other women are not going to reach out to her. The woman that is sleeping with or is cheating, they're not going to reach out to her. You see how far these men can do. You see how far they can go. So if you know that you're in a relationship, just go and check your blog chat first before you watch this video. Go and check your blog calls and see if there's any calls that your partner has blocked. Because this man, they'll leave you in the desert dry. Let me show you this video, then we'll come back and talk about it.
Guys, I'm back with all the tea. So we know how I'm going through a divorce because my husband left me while I was pregnant because he was having an affair. But since sharing my story on TikTok, so many people have reached out to me. And one of them that have recently reached out to me was someone that my ex had past relations with. So she messaged me on TikTok and texted me her number so she can send me screenshots of things that my ex has said to her and liked on his Sam After Dark Instagram account that he uses to slide into girls' DMs when we were together, and he probably still does that. But anyways, I went to go text her with her number and the text didn't go through. So I looked and her number was blocked in my phone. So I was like, that is strange. I've never talked to this girl in my life. So I went to my blocked contacts in my phone and I found 208 blocked phone numbers in my phone that I've never blocked. So I went and started looking up all these numbers, and I've hardly looked up any of them because I gave up when I realized they were all girls my age, and I knew some of those names, and I'll show you some. So here are some names that I found and looked up when I put their phone number in. And it's actually insane how many numbers that I have and that I need to still look up. But who has time for that? I gave up when I realized they were all girls. And yeah, he probably was cheating on me our entire 9 years we were together. So thanks, Sam. You're a real one, buddy. Also, I need to give this man credit for going in my phone and blocking that many numbers. Like, you're good. You're smart, real smart, buddy.
I've never seen this one before. I have seen a lot. Okay, I've seen a lot of cheating story. But you see this one, I've never heard that if we block numbers so that they're not going to reach you or so that you cannot reach them or something. That's a notorious cheater. And I'm happy she's going through divorce already. Anyways, you guys, back to the story time. Back to the story time. She did part one to part seven of how she found out that man was cheating on her. Are you ready? Are you ready to watch the story time? Let's watch it together, you all. Then we'll come back and talk about it. Let's see how she found out that her partner was cheating. I feel like she found out this 200 and something later on after she said this whole story. So I feel like she knows a woman. Let's watch the story together, then we'll come back and talk about it.
Part one story time of my husband's affair. Yes, we are getting divorced, but I will be calling him my husband and his mistress in these videos.
Okay.
So on September 1st, 2024, when I was 30 weeks pregnant, my husband has been very depressed for like most of the summer, and that day I finally asked him again, like, is it me? Like, well, like, why have you been so depressed? And he said it was me, and he basically told me that he was no longer in love with me. He loved me, but he was no longer in love with me. So he gave me an entire week to stay at our house that we lived in together for 5 years. He stayed there for a whole entire week. I tried to, get him to stay, like, figure things out, why he was telling me this. So he stayed for a week, and then he moved into his mom's house the next Monday, a week later. He moved into his mom's house, leaving me 30 weeks pregnant to care for our 2-year-old toddler and our 2 very big dogs that we have. He told me that he would come to the house every day, help walk the dogs, help take care of our child, in which he did not live up to what he told me. So I made him get the dogs out of our house, because how am I supposed to take care of all the responsibilities when he just up and left? And he was doing sketchy things like not spending the night at his mom's house anymore, staying the night there. He was staying the night at his friend's house. One night his phone died, and he was out having drinks with his friend, and his phone died all night, and he didn't tell me what he was doing. So I was having my suspicions that he was definitely up to no good, and he was forced by me to get his own apartment so he can take the dogs out, because I couldn't handle 2 very big dogs, a toddler, and 30 weeks pregnant. So he gets approved for an apartment where he's able to bring the dogs. And before he moves into the apartment, he has a trip to Orlando planned with some of his friends and at the time, his current bosses that he shoots weddings for. It was them, they're a couple, and then another couple. They were all going. So he was going to Orlando and going to the theme parks with everyone that were married. So I didn't think anything of it. I wasn't happy that he was going to Orlando, because we were going through something crazy. Like, he told me he wanted to leave me, and we were going through something very crazy. He was moving out, he was taking the dogs, and like, he was having money issues, and I didn't think this was the right time to go to Orlando. But he was like, no, this trip has been planned. So he decided to go. On September 9th, he sends me texts between him and a married woman that is also going to Orlando, and he tells me how she has an extra room in her hotel that he can stay at. So here's the text. So those texts right there happen to be from the mistress, who at the time, did not think anything of it, because 1, she was married, 2, he was at her wedding because he was the second shooter for the videography of her wedding. So I thought absolutely nothing of it. And also at the time of the Orlando trip, nobody besides our parents knew of our separation at all. So September 23rd rolls around. He goes to Orlando. Nobody knows of any troubles between him and I. And at this time, I'm 33 weeks pregnant. So my husband and his mistress, they blindside their bosses, my husband's bosses, and the mistress's best friend. They blindside all of them and act like a complete couple in front of everyone when everyone's just thinking that they're still in their happy marriages. So they have the audacity to blindside everyone that they're close to in their lives. And here's a photo that was taken on September 23rd. And that day, my husband and I, we were still sleeping together. So this day, we slept together before he went on this trip. And look at this photo. So the couple that my husband works for and shoots weddings with took a picture from under the table of them in Orlando on September 23rd and blindsided everybody. You can even see they are wearing matching shoes at this time. Look at this photo. Okay, I'm 33 weeks pregnant. He's still sleeping with me. Nobody knew of our separation, and this photo was taken. So the next couple of days on the Orlando trip is when he doesn't check in on us, doesn't ask about his son, doesn't ask about me when I'm 33 weeks pregnant. I have to FaceTime him to hear from him. He also then tells me that, Sarah, like, we're done. I don't have to update you. I don't have to tell you what I'm doing at all times. That's when he became very distant with me. And I was like, I can't believe this is really happening and this is my life. And he doesn't want to work on things. And he's just out having fun on a vacation while I'm home, heartbroken, pregnant, dealing with our toddler, taking care of our dogs. And I'm just sitting at home wondering what he's doing. I didn't have any speculation, though, that he was cheating on me at this time. But I was hurt that he even went on this trip. So he comes back for this trip and he moves into his apartment. He takes the dogs. Everything's fine. I see him in his apartment. I even help him pack his shit up in my house so he can take it. Things are still weird, but we are on pretty good terms at this time because I'm trying to protect my peace and my well-being before the baby comes. I don't want to add stress to the baby and harm to the baby while I'm pregnant. But I do bring up to him every day, like, are you cheating on me? Are you cheating on me? Is there somebody else? And he keeps saying, no, I would never cheat on you. I just want to be alone. I don't want to be with anybody. He wants to figure out his mental health and all that stuff because it got really bad again once he did move into the apartment, and he blamed me for that. And he would text me and blow up my phone at night, saying how depressed he was and stuff. And I was always there for him. And even when I was going through the hardest time of my life, I wanted to make sure that he was okay. And at times did feel bad for him. But I always told him that he can come back home. That's all I wanted him. I was like, you can come back home. Like, you can change your mind. If there's nobody else, you weren't cheating on me, like, come back home. All right, come back for part 2 when I find out that he's having an affair on me. Part 2 of finding out about my husband's affair. At this point in time, it's the end of September. I still have no idea about the affair. He moves into his apartment because I forced him to take our dogs because I couldn't possibly handle 2 very big needy dogs while heavily pregnant and a very needy toddler as well. So I gave him some responsibilities since he decided he wanted to leave all his responsibilities and he needed to help out. So he took the dogs, and now here are some text messages between him when he moved out and how he treated me. So he was sending me those type of text messages all the time and making me feel guilty of what he's going through because I have no idea what he's going through. Yeah. And I didn't because I had no idea he was having an affair on me. But so I was very confused by how he was always playing the victim, and I was always trying to figure out, like, what the hell is going on with this man. But here are some more texts that he had the audacity of sending me as well. So he basically was always trying to play the victim as well, and that we were both going through very hard times. And it wasn't just me. And I was just trying to get him to understand how my life was flipped upside down and I was blindsided by all this. And he would just send me things like that. So I was very confused about all this. And I did have my suspicions that there was somebody else. But this leads me into the beginning of October. And he's going on a work trip to New York to shoot a festival. He was going to the festival with another married woman, and he told me that she is just getting into photography, and he was helping her get into the festival so they could shoot all this stuff. So he sent me this text between them. So he sent me that text with her confirming that they were still able to go shoot at this club. And then he was getting them in to shoot at a festival in New York City because he messaged people and he was able to get in, but that wasn't a paid gig. This one that they were shooting together at the club was a paid gig. So he goes to New York to work, and he has to fly to get there, and he has to get a hotel. And I know that in this industry, like DJs, when you shoot for them, unless they're like a high name DJ, very popular, like Alesso, they don't have a budget to pay for all this. So I have my speculations, like who is paying for this hotel, these plane tickets. It just seems very interesting and odd to me. And I'm also upset that he is going because at this point in time, I'm 34, almost 35 weeks pregnant. But I'm like, whatever. I don't care about this man. So he goes, and I ask him when he lands, I'm like, are you and her sharing the same hotel room? Because like I said, I know these DJs don't have a budget to pay for this kind of stuff, and he didn't have money to pay for a hotel room. And he goes, yeah, we're sharing the same hotel room. And I go, that's weird. Her husband is letting her stay in the same hotel room with another guy. And I was like, I'm going to message her husband. I just said that I was going to message him to see what he would say. And he was like, no, it's not like that. She's just very grateful that I'm able to get her into this festival. And she's starting out photography and all this stuff. I wasn't buying any of that. So I'm very close with my husband's dad. And I told him that he asked me how I was doing. And I told him like, oh, I'm not doing very well. Like my husband is sharing the same hotel room with another girl. And so he lands from his flight, and I get a text message when he lands back from New York. I get a text message from my husband saying this. So his dad picks him up from the airport and confronts him about being in the same hotel room with another girl. My husband flips out, texted me that, saying that I needed to drop our toddler off at my parents' house because things are about to get ugly between us. And at this point, I have no idea what this man is capable of, and I get really scared. But I end up calming him down, and he comes to the house. And when he comes to the house, he starts hysterically crying because he feels like he has no support from anybody and nobody understands what he's going through. And then he finally confesses that he is sleeping with this girl. We'll call her the mistress because that's who she is. He has been sleeping with this girl since the Orlando trip because they are both bonding over the fact that they're both going through divorces. And I do not believe that. So stay tuned for part 3. Part 3 of finding out about my husband's affair. So we left off on the night of October 7th where he confessed at my house that he's been sleeping with this married woman and they are bonding over the fact that they're both are getting divorced. This started supposedly on the Orlando trip, which was the end of September. Now this is October 7th. So he leaves my house and I immediately contact Samantha Farmer. Samantha Farmer is also married to David, and they both shot my wedding, and my husband works for them. So I immediately contact her because she was on the trip in Orlando, and I tell her what my husband told me, that he has been sleeping with this married woman and they both are getting divorced, and the whole story of what he told me. And she was like, that is not true at all. You need to find out the truth. So I text my husband immediately after that, and let me show you what he said. I was told from that trip that they were acting like a complete couple, holding hands, telling each other that they loved each other on this trip. Meanwhile, my husband was saying that it happened. That was the start of everything. So I had to find out for myself what was going on and what was happening. And I had to dig deep. But he also sent me a few other text messages, like this one. So all this man was doing was deny. So what I did, I decided to call the girl's husband because I knew she was married. And I was like, there's no way he knows. So I call him up. I tell him everything because he knows nothing. My husband separated with me on September 1st. His wife told him September 18th. I believe it was September 18th, something along those lines. But we pretty much figured out that they left their marriages for each other. And I had to prove it because all my husband was doing was denying it. But before I proved it, some of these were posted on social media. Here we go. So on October 8th, she shared my husband's post and said this at the bottom. That was from their New York trip when they shot Fisher. So that post got me really spiraling, and I was like, I need to figure this shit out. But 2 days later was my husband's birthday on October 10th, and she posted this to social media. She posted, "Happy birthday to the GOAT," and tagged him while he's still wearing his wedding ring. And this was on their little New York trip last week at the time. So that sent me. So that post made me lose my shit. And at this time, I am 35 weeks pregnant with our second child. So I decide to pull up the phone records. And the phone records show everything that I needed to know, that he was having an affair on me since June. Stay tuned for part 4. Wow. Part 4 of finding out about my husband's affair. So we left off where I found the phone records, and that's when I found out he was having an affair since June 18th with this married woman. So we're still on October 10th, and this is my husband's birthday, and I just found all this out. But let's rewind back to the beginning of the day where I do some lurking, and I see on the mistress's page that she has the same tattoo similar to where my husband has a wave tattoo. Let me show you my husband's tattoo. Okay, so this is my husband's tattoo that he's had for a very, very, very long time. Honestly, not the best looking tattoo there is. And now we have her lovely wave tattoo over here, which I was like, very, very interesting. But come to find out, she got this tattoo in August when my husband and I were still together. But she was sleeping with the same man too, and she got a matching tattoo in the same spot that he has one. All right, everyone, let's buckle up because things are about to get crazy. So here are also some crazy texts my husband sent me in the beginning of the day as well. So he texted me this because the TikTok world is going to come for me, but I slept with my husband on October 9th, and he was scared that I was going to tell his mistress and I was going to ruin everything. So here are the texts. Before y'all come for me, yes, I slept with him. Yes, I was 35 weeks pregnant. I just still wanted the man that I loved for 9 years to love me too. And I would have done anything to not have a broken family. Yeah. But let's go back now to me confronting my husband and calling him about the phone records. So I call him up and I confront him about the phone records and tell him every single time that I realize that he cheated on me. He loses his shit. And he decides to hang up on me and pull up my phone records and realizes that I was talking to the mistress's husband. So he says he's gonna come to the house and get the rest of his shit because he never wants to see me again. And I tell him that there's something at the house, you don't need to come here. And he's like, no, I'm coming here. So I was worried about the well-being of me, my child, and my unborn baby. So I locked all the doors, and when he got there, I didn't let him in the house. He got really mad and said some things that I cannot say on the internet or this will get taken down again. But I've got him to come back and to come in the house while me and my toddler were safely in my car out of harm's way, just in case he was going to lose his shit or anything like that, because I did not trust the man. So I let him come in the house, and then not even a minute later, he comes out and he puts his keys on the car, says some things that I cannot say on the internet because this video will get taken down, put his keys on the car, and walks out of the neighborhood. I start freaking out, and I call 911. Long story short, so this video doesn't get taken down, he gets Baker acted. I'm like, okay, he's going to finally get the help that he needs, and everything's going to be okay. Later that night, I put my toddler to sleep, and then next thing you know, I get a call from no other than the mistress herself. Stay tuned for part 5. Part 5 of finding out about my husband's affair. I have to give the people what they want even when I just woke up and have a sleeping baby. So we left off where the mistress, my husband gets Baker acted, and the mistress calls me. So she calls me up and she tells me that my husband gave her my number to inform where he is. And I was like, oh, I know exactly where he is. The cops were at my house on the one that he got Baker acted. I'm not worried about him. Not worried about him at all. And she's like, we need to get him out of there. It's a horrible place. He doesn't need to be there. He's not depressed. Was never going to do what he said he was going to do. And I was like, no, you don't know him. I've been with him for 9 years. And I told her off. I didn't yell at her, but I told her off for about an hour straight and told her a lot of things about him that she had no idea. And that's when I was like, and you have no idea he's still sleeping with me. And she goes, when was the last time you guys slept together? And I go, yesterday. So it was about a 2-hour long conversation. And honestly, like, I was really nice to her because I know how shitty my husband is and manipulative. And I didn't blame her at all. But come to find out, this girl is crazy. But, you know. So I didn't blame her at all. And we had a good 2-hour long conversation. And she was still staying in contact with my husband while he was in the mental institute. She was on the phone with him the majority of the time, which I had no idea that was allowed. And I wish that wasn't allowed because he actually needed help in there. But she was in contact with him most of the time. I wasn't in contact with him at all until he ended up calling me the next day because he had to put my house address and my contact info to get him out of there because I was his wife. So the next day he had an evaluation and he was able to get out of the mental hospital. But here are some text messages from the mistress herself that she sent me. So she said this about my husband to me because she was texting me and in contact with me while he was in the mental institute as well. So he talks himself out of getting Baker acted for less than 24 hours. So the next morning I have to pick him up. The doctors do call me and they're like, oh, he doesn't want to do what he said he was going to do to himself. He's just dealing with extreme guilt and remorse for what he has done. And I was like, I don't believe that, but okay, I'll come pick him up. So I picked him up with his dad. And his dad and I sit him down and talk to him for about 2 hours in the car. And honestly, we think we have a good talk with him. We think that, at the end of the day, he needs to put his kids first, he's putting this girl first and all this stuff. And he also tells us that the mistress called the mental hospital before he even got there by the cops and pretended to be his lawyer because she wanted to get him out of there. And I was pissed about that. I was like, oh, so she was trying to get you out and pretended to be your lawyer? She's not even a lawyer in this state. Which I thought was very wild. So I bring the man back to my house because we have a child together and I'm 35 weeks pregnant. So he hangs out at my house for the day, and his mistress girlfriend wasn't really happy about that because now she does not trust him to be at my house around me because he was still sleeping with me. And so the next day, everything's fine. He leaves. The next day comes around and he tells me that I owed it to the mistress to tell her that he got out of the mental hospital because she was keeping me updated. Because when I picked my husband up, I didn't give him his phone back for a couple hours because he needed to have a sit-down talk with me and his dad. So nobody informed the mistress that he got picked up. And here are some text messages from my husband. And this is me going off on him. So I was livid that he said I owed her anything at all because she was in contact with me while he was at the mental hospital. So we fought about that a few days. And then here are some text messages about him saying he didn't want to be at the house anymore. So let's fast forward a couple weeks. And now I am 37 weeks pregnant. And shit is not good between us. He has completely does not care about me, does not care about his toddler, has been hanging out with this girl any chance he can get. So today is my 37-week doctor's appointment, and I needed him to watch my toddler. And he says no because he has to go pick up the mistress from the airport because she doesn't live in the same state that we live in, and she comes and flies down every weekend all the time. So he has to go pick her up, and he cannot watch my toddler while I go to my doctor's appointment. So at this doctor's appointment, I find out that I'm already 3 centimeters dilated, and I'm probably going to have the baby this weekend. And guess what? The mistress is in town this weekend. So I'm like, of course, I'm going to have the baby any day now. So this was on a Wednesday, my doctor's appointment, and now today is Saturday, October 26th. And today is a day that my husband is going to take our toddler and give me a little break because his mistress was leaving and driving 4 hours away to go to a Halloween party. So he comes to my house and we are fighting as one does when you're 37 weeks pregnant, about to have a baby, and are pissed off that he hasn't been around and he's been hanging out with another woman. So we are fighting, and next thing you know, somehow things are fine, and next thing you know, we end up having sex together. And not even 30 minutes later, I start having contractions. Stay tuned for part 6. Part 6 of finding out about my husband's affair. So I left off that I was having contractions and going into labor. I do have a full birth story on TikTok if you want to see all the details. I'm going to try to speed through this part. So I decide a week prior that my husband is not going to be allowed at the birth. So these are some text messages between him and I. Why would I want this man at my birth who has done nothing but cause harm, stress, pain, crying my eyes out every morning? Why would I want him at the birth? So I bring my toddler to my parents' house and he goes home and I go to the hospital with my mother. And when I get to the hospital on October 26th, I am already 7 centimeters dilated and I'm hardly in any pain at all. So I get admitted and things are progressing slowly. So throughout the night, nothing progresses. And then it's 8:15 the next morning on October 27th. And I decide, okay, things are taking a little longer than expected. Maybe my husband can be here for the birth. Let me call in and inform him like what's going on. So I call him at 8:15. He does not answer. I call him again 3 more times between the next hour. 2 more times between the next hour, 3 times total, and he does not answer the phone. At this point, I'm like, what the fuck? This guy does not care about me. He knows that I'm in labor. It's not that early in the morning. Why is he not answering his phone? He finally gets in contact with me, and I'm like, hey, my midwife just broke my water. Like, he's about to be here. I'll text you and let you know when you can come. So my midwife breaks my water. My perfect, beautiful baby boy is born. He was 7 pounds, 4 ounces, born at 11:54 a.m. I gave him my last name, not my husband's last name. And I texted my husband a picture of the baby, and then he showed up at the hospital. He shows up at the hospital, everything's fine, but I do find out while I'm there that his mistress girlfriend drove back 4 hours from where she was that night to go spend the night with him because she knew I was in labor and she was freaking out. This is what my husband told me. At this point, I could care less. He said she was getting on a flight back home, whatever. I was just enjoying my newborn and trying to enjoy what I can of this whole birth and postpartum experience. So everything's fine. He is mostly just texting her, but he is helping me out, and he is texting her a lot in the hospital, and she can't understand why he has to stay the night with me. I mean, she has no kids, so at that point I'm just like, what woman would fucking say that? Like, are you kidding me? And she also had the nerve to say what my husband told me, that she sent a DM to him on Instagram of this DJ Fisher, and he likes to bring out his niece or something out on the stage, and she was like, she wanted that to be them one day, and she wanted to have his babies. This is what the man told me. I was like, oh, nice. Like, is he trying to destroy me even more than I'm already destroyed? Anyways, we go home with our perfect baby boy. He does not spend the first night home with me, with my newborn and toddler. He leaves. He cries about it, and I'm like, these are all your choices. You can stay. No one is forcing you to leave. He leaves, and basically that is when I start posting my TikToks, because this is how I choose to grieve, and I start posting TikToks. And so that is what we fight about for the next week. And he ends up quitting his salary job because they found my TikToks, and he couldn't face reality and own up to what he did. So he quits his salary job, and I've had enough. The first week, he barely decided that he wanted to show up with his newborn baby and help me out. And at this point, like, I'm losing my goddamn mind. So I decide to text the mistress's mom and just tell her, like, what's going on and what's up. And it wasn't a mean text, just needed to inform her what her daughter is doing. So I text her, and my husband is at my house this day, and she is confronted by her mom about the text, and she ends up calling me and tells me to go stay the fuck away from her family. And I have her on speaker, and my husband is just looking at me like, smiling. I'm like, what the fuck? And basically she tries breaking out with him and tells him that I'm a psychopath and this is never going to work out and all this stuff. So my husband leaves my house because he needs to try to save this relationship and talk to her on the phone and do God knows what to save it. So when he leaves the house, I get a call from the mistress herself again. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to tell her. So I told her that her man, my husband, is still sleeping with me, and he's the reason why I was put into labor. She hangs up on me, and she's like, okay. She hangs up on me and calls my husband back and wants to know all the details from him. My husband is freaking out and wants to save his relationship with her, so he books a flight to go see her. And the next day, while I'm 1 week postpartum, he flies his little ass to go see her and posts photos of them together on his Instagram story because he wants to save the relationship, and he posted them. And that's when I made a TikTok. I made a TikTok about that post, so you can go see it. So he goes and saves his relationship. They have a great weekend. I'm 1 week postpartum. They have a great weekend. He goes to an NFL game. Like, he's just living the life. Like, this girl's paying for everything. He pays for nothing. At this point, he quit his job. He has no money. He doesn't give us any money. Here are some text messages about the money situation. This man wanted me to be appreciative of the hard work that he was doing before he quit his job. those messages were like a couple weeks before he quit his job, and I needed to be appreciative of what he was doing for us. Now let's fast forward to December. Basically, we're arguing about when he's going to see the kids. He's only showing up when he wants to be a father. He's telling me to always take down TikToks, does not agree with my TikToks, hates them, is mad about them, says I'm a liar. I have people confronting me, coming to me saying that he told them I cheated on him first, which is crazy. So that's when I slowly become more crazier, as you see my TikToks progress, and I post that my husband posted his mistress while I was 1 week postpartum on his Instagram story, and his mistress lost her goddamn mind and called my mom and made me take the post down, but it's now back up, which the post is there. And then I make another post about her harassing me, and next thing you know, on January 1st, the cops show up at my door. All right, part 7 is gonna be the last part. We're almost there. Part 7 of finding out about my husband's affair. I just want to make it clear that I seem happy and I'm smiling in these videos because that's how I deal with the trauma and how crazy and bad the whole story really is. Okay, so now we left off. This is January 1st, and I get a call from the cops because my husband and his mistress girlfriend called the cops on me because of my video and said that I am harassing them, making fake numbers, posting their information with fake accounts on my profile, and having people go after them. So they call the cops on me, and the cops come to my house, and all they do is take my side of the story. He doesn't even want to see my videos, but I show him my TikTok, and he's like, okay, this is just a problem between you and your husband. Like, you guys have to take that up on each other. So he realizes that nothing can be done about my TikToks. So here are some text messages between him. I have all his accounts and his mistress accounts blocked on my TikTok, and they have burner accounts to stalk my videos, and they read the comments more than I do. But yeah, I'm not the one making fake accounts, they are. Here's some more text of him demanding me take the TikToks down. Also, still claiming that he's gonna call the cops on me again. So now it's January 2nd, and my husband finally files for divorce. I've been waiting for him to file for divorce this whole entire time. My family currently supports me and our kids, and he kept saying that he was gonna file for divorce, and he had no money, so I was waiting for him to pay the $500 to file, and he told me his mom gave him money to file for divorce. So he filed for divorce on January 2nd, and January 3rd, our 5-year wedding anniversary, I counterfiled for divorce. So my husband is still complaining about my TikToks and trying to get me to take them down. But the weekend of January 3rd, my husband takes the boys for the weekend, and I tell him that on Monday at 7:45 a.m., our little 2-month-old baby has a doctor's appointment, and he was like, okay, I'll take him. And I was like, I kind of want to be there and I want to take him. And he's like, no, I'm taking him. He wasn't budging, he wasn't backing down. I was like, okay, whatever, you can take him. And that weekend, whenever I tried to contact him about asking him how the boys were, all he would reply back to me was, take the TikToks down, Sarah. So I decide, and actually my mom tells me, she's like, I think you should go and show up at the pediatrician's office because your husband doesn't really know the newborn baby. You're the mother and you should be there as well. So at 7:45 on that Monday, I show up at the pediatrician's office, and my husband causes a little scene in the waiting room and was like, what are you doing here? You can't be here. I don't want you here. Either I go in by myself or you go in by yourself. And I was like, okay, well, where's our toddler? And he's like, with my mom at the bagel store. next door. And I was like, okay, I'll go hang out with him and you can take our little baby into his doctor's appointment. And I left because I did not want to cause a scene or any confrontation or anything like that. So a couple days later, another cop shows up at my house and my husband decides to try to file a restraining order against me. Yes. But the cop is like, okay, like nothing to worry about. The restraining order got denied, but you still have a court date where he can try to fight it. So we show up to court. This was the last Thursday. We show up to court and I'm like freaking out because I'm like, oh, I don't know what he's going to do and try to manipulate the situation. And I was really nervous for that. So I showed up to court. All I had to do was say my name and they asked him a few questions. And the judge was like, this isn't divorce court. This is domestic violence court. So case dismissed. And he had his little binder with him. So he slammed his binder on the desk and ran out of the courtroom. And I was like, this is so embarrassing. And honestly, it's crazy how much he hates me. Like, I don't know, this is how I deal with trauma. Like, I was looking at him and either wanted to cry or laugh. Like, I just couldn't look at him because one of those was going to happen. So that finally leads me to today, where this man still wants me to take my TikToks down. And he says this is a horrible way of grieving. It's only going to ruin his lives and our boys' lives and all this stuff, and only cares about himself. But I didn't make this series to destroy him and his mistress or bring anybody down or hurt anybody. I just felt the need to tell my story because people were coming out and saying lies about me that my husband has told about me. And I just couldn't stay silent anymore. Like, yeah, okay, this might be my form of grieving and my form of crashing out. But I let this man control me for 9 years and manipulate me for 9 years. And at the end of the day, he is a serial cheater. And he always will be. And he will always be that person. And I did dodge a bullet. And I deserve way, way, way better. And at the end of the day, like, I am really happy that he did this to me because I probably would never have left. I mean, as you guys can tell, I love this man with everything in me. I gave him the world and I just wanted him to be happy. He was my home for 9 years. Like, he was my person, and I never thought that somebody that I loved can betray me this way. So yeah, I was holding on to every piece of hope, and I am pretty numb to like this whole situation, and I know that I will heal and everything. I'll feel happy again, and I won't ever think about this man who destroyed my freaking life. There's still so many details that I didn't share because this story was very, very messy. But you guys should leave any questions in the comments and I'll reply back with some videos if you guys have some questions. And hopefully I can share my healing journey and have my happily ever after. Love you guys.
We listen, but we do not judge. Seriously, because if I actually want to talk about this whole story, I'm going to judge. At some point, I was already judging. And to be honest, it took me 2 days to finish the story time. It took me 2 days. You can tell I could not finish it in that sitting. I had to watch it all over again and continue it to finish it. But then, what is your take on this whole thing? I feel like let's go back to the first video we're talking about, which is him blocking over 200 contacts from our phone. You guys, they've been married for 9 years and he has blocked 200. You guys, these men, as I said earlier, please check your block chats, check your block contacts. Probably this is a new thing that is going on. Always keep checking because you never can tell what they've blocked. there are new tricks here and there. And to think that she was thinking it was just one married woman that it was doing, not knowing that there are over 200. You guys, this video is already long enough. I feel like talking about it is going to make the video too long, and I'm not a fan of long video. What is your take on this? Maybe we should do another video talking about it and talking about all people's reaction on our story. Maybe we'll do that. Then I'll be able to express myself very well. But then let me know your thoughts about this video down in the comment section. If you stick around to this point, hey, like gist. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.